Hey guys, Mrs. Fox here to talk about 7.1, the scientific revolution. So get everything you need for your Cornell notes, paper, highlighters, something to write with, okay? And let's get some knowledge on. All right, you need to get down that EQ and your title. If you need more time at any point through the PowerPoint, don't forget you can always pause before moving on to the next segment of the video. I'm not giving you guys your left-hand side questions as we go. Those are something you need to be creating on your own. Don't forget, you shouldn't have a left-hand side question that can be answered with a yes or a no, or it could be answered with a word or two. It should take at least a sentence, if not more, to thoroughly answer any left-hand side question that you create. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with part one of our 7.1 scientific revolution. You need more time for this intro stuff? Push pause, because here we go. All right, Q1. Scientific revolution. Write it down, highlight it yellow. All right, what is the scientific revolution? Well, once again, in all reality, you guys, we're still in the Renaissance. Remember, the Renaissance took place from the late 1300s into the 1600s, okay? And a few different movements happened during the Renaissance time period. Okay, we looked at the Reformation. The Reformation got started in the 1500s during the Renaissance taking place. Another thing that happens during the Renaissance taking place and actually goes out past the Renaissance time period is the scientific revolution. So the scientific revolution is going to be in the 15s and into the 1600s, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so it is a period of time starting in the 1500s where people questioned the accepted views of the world. All right, so get that down. Nice, easy definition of what the scientific revolution is. If you need more time, push pause, draw a line underneath everything you just wrote all the way across your page. Give yourself a left-hand side question, and here we go. All right, so where the heck did a scientific revolution come from anyway? Well, it's been building for a long time. All right. Way back in the medieval period that we studied a couple units ago, right? Not everyone was having the dark ages. Like, we looked at a lot of Europe during the medieval period and how big chunks of the medieval times for a lot of European countries were not so awesome blossom, right? But that wasn't true all the way around the world. If you guys remember back to our Muslim unit, the Islamic Empire was having a golden age during the medieval period. Okay, remember the medieval period being from about 500 to about 1500 or so, is that 1,000-year period that we call the medieval times. Okay, Muslims, they were having a golden age. They had all kinds of inventions and advancements, and education took off, and they were doing great in the Middle Eastern area during the medieval times. And so that is one group of people who had really taken a lot of ancient texts, a lot of things that the Greeks and Romans had come up with, and they were preserving those things. This should ring a bell. We've talked about it before. Okay, so the Muslims are taking things from the Greeks and Romans, they're translating it, they're adding to it as they find new information, doing their own scientific experiments and expanding their knowledge during their golden age and adding to that stuff. So the Muslims are beefing up science, okay, for one. Secondly, even within the European nations, there were areas that scholarship and education was still important and valued even throughout the dark period of the medieval times in Europe. And one group that really valued that was Jewish scholars. So some of the Jewish scholars would take stuff that the Muslims had created and added onto and saved from Greek and Roman times, right? And they would take that and translate it into local languages throughout Europe, and they would add on to it as they figured stuff out. They're not the only ones to do this. Some monks in the Catholic Church did this as well. Okay, so you've got Jewish scholars, you've got monks taking stuff from the Muslims who took it from the Romans and Greeks, and everybody as they go keep adding on to it as they learn more things, right? And increasing the amount of knowledge that is available. So all of these things are going to play a role in the scientific revolution. Additionally, we have the printing press that gets invented, right? So ideas are spreading way faster than ever before through pamphlets and booklets and flyers and books as people are getting educated during the Renaissance, because remember, the scientific revolution starts during the Renaissance. People are valuing education and going to university and taking classes and learning to read and things, all right? So that's going to play an important part. Also, humanists. Okay, remember, humanism values says, hey, don't just blindly accept things, right? We've been talking about that for a while now. Look into them yourself, dig for yourself. Does this make sense? Does it fit your life? Does it fit the world? Okay, so really use your brain, use your education, use your potentials as a humanist, right? And double check that you agree with what you're being told, because just because someone tells you something doesn't mean you shouldn't maybe question it. That doesn't mean they're wrong. Maybe they're totally right, but you should question it and think on it and see if you agree. Okay, so all of these things start bubbling up, right, as knowledge increases over time. And then as more and more people get educated and those original Greek and Roman texts that have been passed down and people have added things to over time start getting more widely read in Europe because education's expanded and people are reading and they value education and learning, they start realizing that they have some different opinions than what they're reading. And even with what in their reading, sometimes book A says this thing and book B says this totally other thing. So wait a minute, who's right? Are both of them right somehow? Is one right and one wrong? If so, which one? Or maybe they're both wrong and there's a totally different answer. So people really start questioning these classical ideas. Remember, Greek and Roman times are known as the classical period. So they're questioning this knowledge that's been passed along these different groups, and people have added onto it and stuff. Well, wait a minute, maybe the foundation of this knowledge from the Greeks and Romans, yeah, maybe there's problems with this. Okay, so that questioning spirit of the Renaissance and people having that spirit of investigation and caring about education and willing to put in the work to find answers is going to kick in, and people are going to want to know more. They're going to want to investigate for themselves. Okay, all right, if you're not ready, push pause. Otherwise, draw a line underneath everything you just wrote all the way across your page. Give yourself a left-hand side question. So let's look at some examples of things that were like, wait a minute, are we sure that's right? Okay, so one example is way back in Greek and Roman times, we had Aristotle, famous philosopher. You've maybe heard the name at some point, okay? And he theorized that the Earth was the center of the universe, center of the solar system. Now you guys, being able to partake in all your wisdom of current times, know the Earth is not the center of the solar system. The sun is, right? But for hundreds of years, it was taught to people before satellites and space, stations and astronauts and stuff, right? That no, the Earth is in the center of the solar system. The Catholic Church promoted this idea. Scientists all over the world promoted this idea. The idea that the Earth is in the middle is called geocentric theory, okay? You want to remember that one. Geocentric theory. Geo meaning rock, okay, like the Earth, third planet from the sun, third rock from the sun, right? Okay, so geo, Earth, geocentric, centric means center, okay, so the rock is in the center, right, is in the center of the universe. And in that theory, the sun and all the other planets would rotate around the Earth. That is this fixed thing, okay? That is not correct. Geocentric theory is wrong, all right? However, for hundreds of years, that's what was taught, is what Aristotle had theorized, that the Earth was in the center. 500 years later, well after Aristotle had died, there's this guy named Ptolemy. You can see it on the third bullet point. The P is silent. Ptolemy agreed with Aristotle, and he helps to popularize that geocentric theory that the Earth is in the center of the solar system. So we're going to go a few hundred more years where people are being taught that the Earth is in the center of the solar system. Okay, and everything orbits around Earth. We're in the middle. Okay, that again, what's that called? Geocentric theory. All right, make sure you give yourself a question on the left-hand side. Geocentric theory is not right, but taught for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, draw a line underneath everything you just wrote all the way across your page. Well, during the scientific revolution, here's people who are educated, interested in science, have been looking at this classical work from people like Aristotle and Ptolemy and others and saying, wait a minute, are we sure that's right? And one of the dudes that did that, his name was Nicholas Copernicus. Say it with me, guys. Nicholas Copernicus. Nicholas Copernicus in the 1500s, during the scientific revolution, challenged Aristotle and Ptolemy's idea about geocentric theory. Okay? Copernicus, using more advanced tools and more advanced logic and thinking that had developed over hundreds of years, he reasoned that no, the Earth cannot be in the center of the solar system. That doesn't make sense. Copernicus believed that the sun was in the center of the solar system. Is he right? Yes, right? The sun is in fact in the center of our solar system. And so the sun is in the middle, and us and all the other planets and moons go around the sun. Okay, so the sun is what is in the center. That theory, Copernicus's theory, is called heliocentric theory. Helio, gas. The sun is made out of gases, right? Centric, center. So a big ball of gas is in the center of the solar system. That's heliocentric theory. Okay? So Copernicus comes out with this theory. Now you got to remember, the Catholic Church for hundreds of years had taught that geocentric theory was correct. So when Nicholas Copernicus says, no, it's not, heliocentric theory makes more sense, he is now a heretic, right? He's going against church teachings. So if you were a scientist and you wanted to stand up for your beliefs, you were often going to be butting heads with the Catholic Church. And you sometimes would need to go into hiding. You could become a wanted person because the Catholic Church did not like you messing with their traditions and their teachings. Okay? But Nicholas Copernicus stuck to his guns and said, no, I'm sorry, the sun is in the center. We've been teaching people the wrong thing. And what's that called again? Heliocentric theory. All right, give yourself a left-hand side question. Draw a line underneath everything you just wrote all the way across your page. Okay, so here's a picture, you guys. On the left, we have geocentric. Remember geocentric, Aristotle, classical idea from Greek and Roman times. Ptolemy added on that, yes, geocentric is correct, and that means the Earth is in the center. Geocentric theory is wrong. That is not correct. Okay, flash forward a few hundred years, and here comes Nicholas Copernicus during the scientific revolution, and he says, no, nay, geocentric theory is incorrect. Okay, and he comes up with heliocentric theory. Hey, the sun is in the center of the solar system. He is correct. Okay, heliocentric theory is right. There is some video clips on these different theories. They're going to be available on the same area as your flipped classroom. I suggest you take a look at those to learn more. All right, Q5, Kepler, which is underlined like it's spelt wrong, but it's right. So ignore that little red line there. Q5, Kepler, write it down, highlight it yellow. All right. So Kepler is a guy who studies Nicholas Copernicus's work, and he agrees. Hey, this makes sense. I do think that Nicholas Copernicus and the heliocentric theory with the sun in the center is correct, but I'm going to modify Nicholas Copernicus's findings by changing one thing. For a long time, orbits, the path that the planets, right, follow to go around the sun, all right, everybody had assumed that those were circles. Well, if they were all circles, that causes problems in the planets running into each other. How come we're not seeing them at certain times during the year in the sky? Different things. And so Kepler says, the way that this is all going to work, that they don't hit each other and that we only see planets during certain times of the year, or maybe not at all in other cases, is because all the orbits are not all perfect circles. They must be different shapes of ovals, okay? So different types of oval shapes. And he, once again, will end up being correct. So Kepler adds on to Copernicus's theory, saying heliocentric is correct, but the orbits, the path the planets follow are these oval shapes, not circles. Okay, and that mathematically better explained how the whole solar system and things work. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, if you're ready, then get set to go join me for part 2. All right, I'll see you when you go and view part 2. See you then.